If you're planning a trip to San Francisco, this episode is for you. Here's a 30-second intro of the episode.
Don't call it San Fran and don't call it Frisco. It is San Francisco, SF, or the city. That's the only thing that people call it. If you are a tourist and you have rented a car in San Francisco, do not leave anything in your car. Like, your car will get broken into if you have visible things. We have Waymos. They are self-driving cars. You get in and there is literally no one behind the wheel. If you're coming in the summer, you are not going to get a California beach summer in San Francisco. I'm so sorry. It is going to be 60 degrees and foggy.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Betty Hurd. I'm your host, and this is the Travel Lemming Podcast. This is where we discuss the best destinations around the world so that you can make the most of your trip. And the end goal is always to make you a better traveler. My guest today was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she just moved back after a year-long trip around the world. Today, she's going to tell us all about the ins and outs of San Francisco. Welcome to the show, one of our senior travel writers, Laura McFarland. Laura, how are you today?
Hi, Betty. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. So Laura and I actually recorded an episode about Lombok, Indonesia, our top pick for places to travel in 2025 at the end of last year. So check out that article and that episode after this. You don't want to miss it. We also just recorded an episode about the best places to road trip in the American West. And Laura was mainly our coastal expert. She talked about driving the Pacific Coast Highway, her travels through the state of California, and so much more. So that's just a little bit of background on how much of the state Laura has explored. So I'm really excited to dig into your expertise on where you actually grew up and where you live now. So before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you can follow along with us as we talk travel every single week. So first, Laura, can you please tell our listeners a little bit about your role at Travel Lemming and about your background and life in San Francisco?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Laura. I'm a senior travel writer here at Travel Lemming, and I specialize in travel advice for the San Francisco Bay Area and Northern California. Like Betty mentioned, I have called California my home base for 26 years, but then I've also spent considerable time traveling around the world, including living in Croatia, England, Australia, and New Zealand, and taking long-term backpacking trips around Europe and Southeast Asia. And then for my background on why I'm the San Francisco travel expert here, my whole family is from the San Francisco Bay Area, so I grew up in the East Bay, about 45 minutes from the city. And then I went to college in Berkeley, right across the bay from San Francisco, and then moved to San Francisco after I graduated. And I've been living and working here ever since. My first job here was in the nonprofit realm, so I worked in a lot of different community-based organizations around the city, which helped me really get to know like every single neighborhood, not just the tourist hotspots. So yeah, local through and through.
So I'll start with a very basic question. Why should somebody travel to San Francisco?
Yeah, I think San Francisco is one of the most unique cities in America. The neighborhoods are what make it the most unique. So it's like a collection of mini towns, each with their own distinct culture and character, and then they make up this patchwork quilt of a big city. But I think a lot of people really need to know that the best part of San Francisco is not the downtown, it's all the little neighborhoods around it. It's a very naturally beautiful city, so you have all these houses and apartment buildings that are in this like iconic, colorful, old Victorian and Edwardian architecture. There are gorgeous parks and green spaces everywhere, and there are hiking trails literally in the city. We have mountains in the city where you can go hiking. It's also surrounded by water because it's on a peninsula, so you get these beautiful windswept beaches all around where you can go for a swim, a surf, or just take a really long walk or run. And then best of all, San Francisco is not just all looks because you have this incredible diverse culture underneath the surface that just adds so much depth to the city. I have met a lot of people while I've been traveling that have called San Francisco one of the most European cities in America. I think this is just because we like have public transportation and it's walkable, but it is a really, really beautiful, old, historic city.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I actually lived in Daly City, which is one of the neighborhoods of San Francisco, for about 9 months last year.
Nice.
And now I'm in Los Angeles. Yeah, and I really loved it. And it's so different from Los Angeles. And I think before I moved there, I kind of had this idea of California that all the big cities are very similar and they're pretty much the same thing. And it's vastly different. And you're right, it is very European. Not only the architecture, but the way that you can just get around all these different areas, like you said, with the public transportation, which is just not something that you see in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned. So San Francisco is on a peninsula, so it's very compact and it's easy to get around. The whole city is only 7 miles by 7 miles, so it doesn't have that big urban sprawl the way that LA has. One last plug on why San Francisco is fantastic to visit is that it was recently named the culinary capital of America in a new list of the nation's best cities for food and drink. San Francisco came out on top. I think this is because we have a lot of local restaurants, very few chain restaurants, and we have some of the most diverse cuisine in the country because we have an incredibly diverse population.
Oh, that's awesome, and we'll definitely get into some of your favorite places to eat and drink in the city a little bit later in the episode. So, moving right along, what are some of the best things to do in San Francisco?
Yeah. So, number one thing to do, I would say visit the waterfront. We have areas like the Embarcadero and Fisherman's Wharf. That's where you'll get these great views of the Golden Gate Bridge, all these old historic fishing boats. You can also walk along the piers. You can take ferry tours around the bay. That leads me to another great thing to do in San Francisco, which is to take a boat tour on the bay. You can either do this by hiring a private boat company, and they have a lot of different tours that'll usually take you like around the bay, underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, over through some of the islands. That's really awesome. It will be a little pricier, but you get like food and drinks on board. You could also take a ferry ride up like through the public ferry. That'll be a cheaper way to get out on the water if you don't want to pay for a pricier tour. Another great thing to do in San Francisco is you have to hang out in some of the parks. So areas like Golden Gate Park, that's the biggest. It's like our version of Central Park. It has gardens, museum, lakes, tons of walking paths. Another really great park is Mission Dolores. That is this big, sprawling, palm tree dotted park on a hill with absolutely gorgeous views over downtown. It is the place to be on a sunny day. You will see tons of people sunbathing and just hanging out, playing music, playing spike ball. It's awesome. The other thing that you have to do in San Francisco is admire the architecture. This is one of my personal favorite things about living in this city is that you can walk down pretty much any street and see this like 1900s Victorian style architecture. They are all so elaborately painted and they all include so much detail. So, like, no two houses look the same. And you'll get that by walking pretty much anywhere in the city.
I think that's my favorite thing about San Francisco is how colorful all the houses are.
Yeah, it is absolutely fantastic. You also need to ride a cable car because San Francisco's cable cars are iconic. And I think that you should also go to a baseball game. If you're not a sports fan, it's still really fun. Giant Stadium is right near downtown San Francisco. You can get there by public transit, and it has this like, it's right on the water. So it has these beautiful views over the bay. And especially being there for a baseball game at sunset is like just the most stunning view. And it's super cheap. You can get tickets for like $20. I feel like a lot of people don't think to engage in sports culture when they're visiting someplace new, but I think it's one of the best ways to get to know a more local side of the city. And a lot of San Francisco locals are very passionate about the Giants. So it's a very fun thing to do.
Yeah, I would say I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I did go to a Giants game and it was so much fun because like you said, it's right on the water, so you're already downtown, so it's a great thing to do if you're gonna do like an exploration of downtown and then go to a game after you get dinner or something like that. And it's so much fun just to be right on the water and see all the local fans.
Yeah, you kind of have to do it while you're in the city. I would also recommend spending a day getting out of the city. One of the best things about living in San Francisco is that we have this incredible proximity to nature and these beautiful areas outside of the city. So, one of my favorite day trips is to Muir Woods. You can go see old growth coast redwoods. It's just about 45 minutes away from San Francisco. You can also take a day trip up to Napa Valley for the 21 and up crowd. This is where you will get some incredible wine tasting. It's one of the most famous wine areas in the world. And that's only about an hour from San Francisco. And then if you're looking to get a little more far flung, you can go to places like Yosemite National Park or Lake Tahoe. That's only about a 4 hour drive away. So definitely the proximity to things around San Francisco is another great reason to visit.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll definitely get into some day trips from San Francisco just because there's so many awesome spots, like you mentioned. So, if you could kind of roll all of that into five top attractions in San Francisco, what would those top five attractions be?
Ooh, okay. Golden Gate Bridge, obviously, number one. You can see it from pretty much anywhere along the waterfront in San Francisco, but if you want to walk across it, it is free to walk across. So you can just go and walk and you'll get these beautiful views over the whole city. Golden Gate Park is also one of my favorite areas in San Francisco. It has things like the Japanese tea garden.
Good.
It's this large Japanese style garden with these koi ponds, zen gardens, and a tea house where you can sit and dine on like traditional Japanese snacks. You can also visit the Conservatory of Flowers, the California Academy of Sciences, which is a natural history museum, and there's a fine arts museum called the DeYoung Museum. So all of that is inside Golden Gate Park, along with so much more. So definitely visit Golden Gate Park.
The bison, too. I
Yes,
used
the
to go to Golden
bison.
Gate. I love going there for that. I used to go there, like, every single weekend, and I would just sit there. There's, like, a pen full of protected bison. I don't really know why they're there, but you can just sit there and go for a little walk in the park and watch the bison just living their lives.
Yeah, it's not part of the San Francisco Zoo. You don't have to pay to go see them. You can just walk right up and observe the bison that live in Golden Gate Park.
I love that.
The other top three attractions I would say for San Francisco, Alcatraz Island. Like many San Francisco locals, I have not actually been to Alcatraz, but it is one of the most popular tourist destinations. It's this old, very famous prison on an island, which has recently made headlines again because someone wants to reopen it. That's probably not going to happen, I would say, because it's now owned by the National Park Service. But it is a super popular thing to go and tour Alcatraz Island. You can see inside the old prison. It's now a museum and you can walk around. You can even do like night tours if you're into something spooky. And you take the ferry to get there, so you also get a boat ride on the water while you're at it. So visiting Alcatraz, definitely worth it. Again, even though I've never been, but I would love to go someday. And then the other top two attractions, I would say Pier 39 is really popular for little kids. It's this big pier with like carnival style games, and you can go and see this colony of seals that hang out and live at Pier 39. And that's kind of like a classic San Francisco thing to do. And then finally, the Painted Ladies is one of my favorite viewpoints in San Francisco. It is a collection of iconic Victorian houses that are just like beautifully preserved. And they're right in front of this gorgeous park. And they have like a view of all of downtown San Francisco behind them. That's like the postcard view of San Francisco.
Very cool. Yeah, I think I've done all of those except for the Painted Ladies. So I got to go back and check that out. It sounds awesome. Are there any hidden gems that you want to talk about that maybe somebody wouldn't know unless they grew up in the area?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of these are hidden to locals, but they're maybe hidden for like tourists that have never been to the city before. I would go to the Twin Peaks Lookout. This is pretty popular. It's the best sunset spot in San Francisco. So it's like up on a big hill and you have pretty much 360-degree views over the whole city. You can hike up it or you can drive up it. But yeah, definitely go to Twin Peaks for sunset. Land's End, Sutra Baths, and the Legion of Honor is this beautiful area that used to be these old Roman bathhouses that got washed away, but you still have the remnants of these big, like, watering baths. It's really hard to explain, but if you go, you have these beautiful views of the ocean, and you can hike a little path that takes you to views of the Golden Gate Bridge and to a really nice fine arts museum called the Legion of Honor. That's one of my favorite places.
And for those watching on YouTube, we have some visuals up of these things. And for anybody who's just listening to the podcast, definitely make sure to check out some pictures of Land's End. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in the United States. You definitely need to check it out if you go to San Francisco.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of my favorite places in the city. Another place that I really like to go that not a lot of people go visit is the Fillmore District. This was actually once known as the Harlem of the West because there are so many jazz clubs. Nowadays, it's definitely smaller and less well known. It's pretty much always overlooked by tourists. It's a great place for some local live music and to learn more about Black history and culture in San Francisco.
Awesome. Fillmore Coffee Shop, by the way, is one of my favorite coffee shops there too. So check that out too.
Nice, nice. This one is very, very particular, but for any French listeners out there, Le Maison Bleu it's called the Blue House. It's in the Castro district of San Francisco. This French musician wrote a song about living in a hippie commune in San Francisco in the 70s, and it was about this house that he lived in. And so it's become kind of a pilgrimage for French tourists to go visit Le Maison Bleu, and like 80% of people that live in San Francisco have no idea what this house is. But for anyone that like grew up with French culture, visiting Le Maison Bleu is pretty much a rite of passage when you visit San Francisco. And then also on the topic of music houses, because I am a music nerd, the Grateful Dead house and Janis Joplin's house are both in the Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco. That's like the hippy-dippy 60s area of the city that if you go, you can look at the Grateful Dead house of where they lived when they were living in San Francisco.
Very cool. So you've mentioned a whole bunch of different areas of San Francisco, and that leads me to my next topic, which is where are the best places to stay in San Francisco?
The best places to stay in San Francisco are Fisherman's Wharf, Nob Hill, Union Square, or North Beach. Fisherman's Wharf is the most touristy area of San Francisco. It is right on the waterfront. There's tons of kid-friendly places to go and things to do, and there's a ton of hotels. You're right next to the waterfront with easy access to things like Alcatraz, doing a boat tour on the bay, Pier 39. You can also get these great views of the Golden Gate Bridge from pretty much anywhere in Fisherman's Wharf. The only thing is that it is the most touristy area of the city, so accommodation will be a little bit pricier here and it'll be pretty crowded. Another great place to stay is Nob Hill. This is where all the luxury hotels are because it's high up on a hill, so you get these great views over the whole city. It's very safe. You will have to walk a lot of places, that's the one thing, and it's super hilly, but you can also take the cable car because the cable car does go through Nob Hill. And this is where like famous old hotels like the Fairmont or the Intercontinental are. There's going to be a lot of rooftop bars. It's a very swanky area. Union Square is going to have the most options for accommodations. So this is where you'll have like a lot of hotels. I do think it kind of lacks character. That's my one criticism of Union Square. I always kind of compare it to like Times Square in New York, but on a much smaller scale. It's just like a lot of department stores and hotels, but there are some really great museums and restaurants there as well. And then North Beach is my favorite place to stay in San Francisco. It has great nightlife, cocktail bars, live music, and like super cool old hotels. It was known in the 50s as like the bohemian area of San Francisco, and so it still kind of retains a lot of that character.
Is North Beach also where, like, the Italian district is? I think that's where all
Yes.
the Italian restaurants are.
Yes, North Beach is the most Italian area of San Francisco. Contrary to what the name suggests, it does not actually have a beach, so it's not like on the waterfront, but you're only like a 15 to 20-minute walk from the water, so you're also still really close to all those tourist attractions.
Very cool, and you can get some really good food. That's where I would always drive because Italian is my favorite. So, out of all of these places that you've just mentioned, where should somebody stay for their very first visit to San Francisco if they've never been before?
I would say you should stay in Fisherman's Wharf or North Beach. I think that both of these areas embody a lot of the essential San Francisco ambiance, like waterfront areas, art, culture, music, diverse dining options, fantastic views all around, and they're both relatively safe.
So, I know the city is notoriously expensive. So, is there anywhere in San Francisco that you recommend someone could stay on a budget?
Yeah, so despite it being one of the most expensive cities in America, I think San Francisco is actually a great city for budget travelers because so many of the main things to do are free. You can walk around Golden Gate Park or the Golden Gate Bridge, that's free. You can rent a cable car for like $8. There are tons of free museum days, like at least once a month, there'll be a free museum day. And so, even though you might spend more on food and accommodation, you will actually save a ton of money on activities and transportation. But in terms of saving on accommodation, I would say you should stay in a hostel. There are a lot of hostels scattered around the city, so it's pretty easy to find a cheap dorm room bed for like around $50 a night. I've heard really wonderful things about the Green Tortoise Hostel in North Beach. I hear it has a sauna, which is really enticing. There are also hostels in Fisherman's Wharf, but that's going to be a little bit pricier. So just like caution around eating and drinking out in Fisherman's Wharf because it is going to be tourist prices, not local prices. So you will pay more.
Great. Any other notable places to stay in San Francisco?
I really love the Alamo Square neighborhood. This is close to the Painted Ladies, like I mentioned. Divisadero Street in the Alamo Square area has a lot of like local cocktail bars, cafes, restaurants, little parklets, and outdoor seating areas. It's right in the middle of the city, also, so it's super easy to access everything from there. And then you can also stay in the Castro District or the Mission District. These are a little bit further removed. They are right next to each other, so they're adjacent neighborhoods. There's not a lot of hotels over here, but there's a lot of little like bed and breakfasts, or you can rent an apartment. It's a very local area, so the Castro is the traditionally LGBTQ area of the city, and then the Mission District is typically the Latinx area of the city. They both have super fun nightlife, are really easy to walk around, and they're both just like really, really fun local areas in the city. But they're further away from tourist spots, and there's not that many hotel options.
Yeah, I can vouch for the Mission neighborhood. One of my family friends lives there, and I've stayed with him multiple times, and you're right. It's like the most walkable place I've ever stayed in. It's right next to Mission Dolores Park, which is an awesome place to walk and get city views, and like the best food I've ever had. Every single
Yes.
restaurant is so, so good. Which again, we'll get into restaurants in a little bit, but I'm very excited to talk about food in San Francisco.
Yeah, and if you want to know more about the neighborhoods of San Francisco and where to stay in general, I did write a few articles on travel Traveloguing. One of them is called Where to Stay in San Francisco. So that breaks down all of the neighborhoods that I just mentioned with my top hotel picks in each of them. And then also, I wrote a whole article just listing all the different neighborhoods of San Francisco and describing the character of each. So if you're curious to learn more about the city's neighborhood makeup, then definitely check out those articles on Travel Traveloguing.
Yes, and also we discussed the best things to do in San Francisco. Laura also has an article on that. So if you want to do a deeper dive into all of her recommendations, make sure to check out the articles after the show. We'll link everything in the show notes. You've talked about all these places to stay. What about places to avoid? So if we could talk about safety in San Francisco, which I know is probably something that a lot of listeners are eager to hear. So if you could break down safety in San Francisco.
This is definitely a hot button topic, safety in San Francisco. I would say the places to avoid if you are a tourist visiting San Francisco would be the Tenderloin and South of Market. But in general, there's not really any tourist attractions here, so you don't really need to go as a tourist. And these two neighborhoods do have the highest instances of violent crime in the city. Again, you are unlikely to be a victim of crime if you're just a tourist in the city, except for certain things, which I will get into in a few minutes. But yeah, just I would say avoid the Tenderloin. It's right in the middle of the city. It's a very, very small neighborhood, just about like 4 blocks by 4 blocks. And then south of Market, between, I would say, like 4th Street and 9th Street, can get a little bit dicey. This is where there tends to be more homeless encampments. Again, homeless people in San Francisco probably will not bother you, but if you want to avoid those areas, this is where they are, is the Tenderloin and south of Market. So just, yeah, be a little more vigilant if you're walking through these areas. But again, as a tourist, you probably don't need to go to them. In terms of safety in San Francisco, I think a lot of people have probably seen certain news channels depicting San Francisco as like the zombie apocalypse for some reason, even though it's an incredibly beautiful city with tons of super, super safe areas. There are a few small areas, a few small blocks where drug use is pretty rampant. There's a lot of people living on the street. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that San Francisco is one of the most expensive cities to live in the entire country. We have incredible problems with income inequality because people in the tech industry make so much money that rent is so high in San Francisco. A lot of people cannot afford to live in apartments. So we have a lot of people living on the street. However, a lot of people living on the street won't bother you. People that are experiencing drug crises, just avoid them. Just go around. Don't go into the areas that I mentioned before where drug use tends to be a little bit higher and more obvious. The things that you should worry about as a tourist in San Francisco are car break-ins or pickpockets. Car break-ins have gone down in recent years, which is great, but we did have a pretty big problem with car break-ins, especially right after the pandemic. They went up like through the roof. So the areas that are really big hotspots for car break-ins are touristy areas. So like Fisherman's Wharf sees the most car break-ins. So if you are a tourist and you have rented a car in San Francisco, do not leave anything in your car. Not a jacket, not a water bottle, not a phone charger. Like your car will get broken into if you have visible things in the trunk, in the back seat, in the front seat, wherever. If you need to leave things in your car, put it in like the glove compartment. Make sure you have tinted windows, or just like don't leave your luggage in there. Don't come from the airport and say, oh, I'm going to park at this. I want to see the Painted Ladies. I'm going to park by the Painted Ladies with my entire luggage in the backseat. Your car will get broken into. Do not do that.
Yeah, before I moved to San Francisco, I can't even tell you the amount of warnings I got from people saying, "Oh, it's so unsafe. You're gonna get your car broken into, you're gonna be robbed." So many different things. But like you said, I avoided the places that people said not to go. I never had an issue in my 9 months of living there, and I was in Daly City, which isn't, like, the nicest area, but I walked everywhere all the time. Like you said, never kept anything in my car, but I parked in mostly well-lit spots. I didn't go walking around in the middle of the night, and I wasn't going in looking for trouble. So, it's a lot of things are like common sense where you can really avoid getting into a bad situation in San Francisco. But people kind of like hear these little bits and pieces of things going on there, and then they think that that's the entire city. And it's just not true. Like, I never saw any really, really bad stuff going on in my time living there. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I would say that if you're not used to living in a city where people are homeless, like that is something to get used to when you visit San Francisco. Again, a lot of people can't afford places to live, but the majority of the time, like, do not bother them. They won't bother you. They are people living on the street. It's fine. Like, you don't need to engage. Something else that I want to touch on is just that San Francisco actually has a pretty low crime rate compared to other major cities in America because we're a pretty mid-sized city. Like San Francisco is less than 1 million people in the actual city itself. And compared to similarly sized cities, we have a pretty low crime rate. So it's not something to be afraid of. Definitely don't let safety stop you from visiting San Francisco. The majority of the city is lovely, very safe. I have never gotten my car broken into because I'm smart and I don't leave thing in the back seat. In general, yeah, don't let safety stop you from wanting to visit. It's a beautiful place, and I just wish that it was portrayed a bit differently on the news.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you're shedding some light on that too, because it
One,
really is so great. It's beautiful.
I think also now is a really exciting time to be visiting San Francisco because things have started to change a little bit. Right after the pandemic, a lot of people working in San Francisco went fully remote because the city is so heavily characterized by the tech industry. So we lost a lot of downtown foot traffic, and the city felt kind of empty for a few years. It was weird. But now a lot of offices are having people come back to work. And we also just got a new mayor who's like one of his main things seems to be revitalizing the downtown and having more foot traffic. So he's actually started doing a lot of like block parties and shutting down whole streets to have street parties where all these restaurants open up and you can like wander around and have live music and drink in the street. it seems to be one of his main priorities. So that's kind of exciting to watch. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but it's a really cool time to be visiting because there's a lot of new things happening in San Francisco and crime is going down and people are hanging out more, which is really fun.
That's awesome. Well, I'm very happy to hear that. When is the best time to visit San Francisco, and how much time do you need to visit the city?
September and October are the best times to visit San Francisco. This is when you will have the best weather. So if you like warm weather, September and October tends to be like when you get these 70-degree plus sunny days. This is also when there will be a lot of music festivals. So like Outside Lands Music Festival is in August, so a little bit before September. But then we also have Hardly Strictly Bluegrass, which is a free 3-day music festival in Golden Gate Park. That's always the first weekend of October. We have Fleet Week, which is when the Navy planes decide to fly all around the city, and it's incredibly annoying to everyone that lives there, but like fun for tourists. So Fleet Week is always in October, and then we have another music festival in September. That's like an EDM 21 and up music festival called Portola. So if you're into like festivals and events, September and October, best time to visit. And for good weather as well. Spring is also a really nice time to visit because you won't get the summer tourists yet, and it's still going to be nice weather. Summer is fine. Summer's just always cold. So prepare for that if you're coming in the summer. You are not going to get a California beach summer in San Francisco. I'm so sorry. It is going to be 60 degrees and foggy. And we'll talk a little bit about weather in different microclimates later. But yeah, in terms of how much time someone should spend in San Francisco, I would say 3 to 4 days to see the city and then tack on an extra day or two to do one of these day trips that I talked about earlier. Rent a car and go up to Muir Woods, go up to Napa Valley or Sonoma County, two of the best wine regions in the United States, or go down to Santa Cruz. That's this really popular beach town where you will get like palm tree lined beaches, really good surf, more the traditional California beach town feel. But I also really recommend Tamales Bay. That's a less popular day trip from San Francisco, but it is my personal favorite. It's one of the biggest oyster producing areas of California. And so you can drive up to these shacks on the water and just like eat farm to table oysters that are the best you've ever had. You can go kayaking. There's all these mossy forests and hidden beaches. It's a really great place. It's only an hour north of San Francisco. So yeah, 3 to 4 days in the city and then like a day or two for day trips.
Very cool. And just to add on to those day trips, I have a couple recommendations as well. Sausalito, just north of San Francisco, across the Golden Gate Bridge, is one of my favorite places to walk around. And you have a view of downtown San Francisco, but you're on the other side of the bay. Really great food there that I've had, and really great like milkshakes and coffee. And it's just like such a fun place to walk around on like a really good sunny weather day. Also to the south, Pacifica. I always went to Pacifica. That's where I would drive and go get my coffee to have it on the beach. There's also the famous Taco Bell that's on the beach in
Yes.
Pacifica, which was the reason I went there in the first place. And then I discovered, oh my God, Pacifica's like an incredible place all its all on its own. But there's a Taco Bell cantina where you can get beer and margaritas and like these slushies right on the beach, and it's incredible.
Yeah, people have called it the most beautiful Taco Bell in the world. I
Easily.
concur. I love going to the Taco Bell Cantina in Pacifica. It sounds really silly, but it is like so fun. So yeah,
It's
Pacifica's a great one. And then plug
yeah.
for Sausalito is that you can take the ferry to Sausalito. So yay, public transportation.
Moving right along, you just mentioned the ferry. What are some of the best ways to get around San Francisco?
Yeah, so again, we have a really robust public transportation system, so I would not recommend renting a car in San Francisco. Parking is notoriously difficult, it is expensive, and again, car break-ins can be difficult to avoid if you're in really touristy areas. So I would just use public transportation if you're planning on staying in the city. There's a few different methods of public transportation, so I'll break them down. BART is the trains that go from the suburbs into the city. There's like 5 stops in the city, but it's not the most efficient way for getting around San Francisco. It's great to get from outside of San Francisco into the city. So that's the BART train. Muni is going to be the best way to get around San Francisco. Muni operates buses and trams. Buses go everywhere. It's $2.75, I think, to ride. The trams are a little bit more limited. There's only 5 main lines, but they go underground and above ground, and they transport you like throughout the main areas of San Francisco. So Muni trams are really great, and they're quick because you don't get stuck in traffic like buses. Cable cars. You have to take a cable car when you're in San Francisco. They are not the best way for actually getting around, however, because they're pretty slow and there's only 3 lines. They're all in downtown or like Nob Hill, Fisherman's Wharf area. So it's a great thing to do if you're trying to get over the hill from Fisherman's Wharf into downtown, but you can't take them everywhere because there's only 3 lines. There are also streetcars, which are different than cable cars. It is confusing. Streetcars mainly run on Market Street, which is the main downtown street in San Francisco that runs from like the Embarcadero all the way through. It's like the main drag. And streetcars go along Market Street. It's the same price as the bus. And then obviously the ferry that is on the water. The ferry departs usually from the piers in downtown, and they go from San Francisco to Oakland, San Francisco to Sausalito, or San Francisco to Angel Island, which is this beautiful natural island in the middle of the San Francisco Bay that you can go and like hike around or bike ride around. So definitely take a ferry to Angel Island if you want a really fun little day excursion from the city.
Lovely. And I know that like Ubers and Lyfts are pretty expensive there, right?
They're not too bad. They're like, I don't know, $9 or $10 for a 20-minute ride.
From the airport, I know that they're pricey,
Oh, yeah.
but my tip is to take a hotel shuttle from the airport to one of the hotels and then Uber to wherever you're going. You'll save like $20. So that's my little pro tip.
Yes, anything coming from the airport is going to be like jacked up prices. But in terms of using Ubers or Lyfts around San Francisco itself, I don't think it's that expensive. We have Waymos. They are self-driving cars. You get in and there is literally no one behind the wheel. It drives itself. They're also all electric, so they're like a relatively sustainable option. Not as sustainable as public transportation, but in terms of gas cars versus electric cars, Waymos are all electric. And it's super weird because you just get in, you call it like an Uber, and you get in the seat, and then this car drives itself away. It is freaky and fun and so San Francisco.
Yeah, Waymos are wild. I've actually still never been in one, even though I've lived in 3 of the 4 cities where they are. So they're in Phoenix, Los Angeles, San Francisco. I've lived in all 3 of those, and then Austin, Texas.
Ooh.
I have yet to do it because it freaks me out, and one of these days I'm gonna do it. But yeah, it's like it's so weird to see them driving up and down the hills, especially because San Francisco is kind of a crazy driving environment, but they're really well programmed because I think that they're virtually like unproblematic in the city. So
Yeah.
it's a nice, safe way to drive, especially if you feel uncomfortable having a random driver picking you up with Uber or Lyft. So moving right along into food and drink. So I know that San Francisco is renowned for the foodie scene. There's some of the best food in the whole world there. There's lots of different districts with different cultures. And also, I know great bars and coffee. So if you can talk a little bit more about the best restaurants, coffee shops, and bars, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of naming actual like specific restaurants you should try, definitely go to my article on the best restaurants in San Francisco because there's too many to break down here. But for different regions where you will get famous cuisine, the Mission District, I would say, has some of the most exciting up and coming new restaurants in the city. It's very trendy right now. And then it also has the best Mexican and Central American food in the city because traditionally it's a more Latinx area. So if you want like a late night burrito, you have to get a burrito in the Mission District. Don't get it anywhere else. Go to the Mission District. North Beach is going to have the best Italian food. Chinatown, which is right across from North Beach, or like right adjacent to North Beach, is going to have obviously the best Chinese food and dim sum in the city. It's actually the largest Chinatown outside of Asia, so we have like incredible food in Chinatown. Downtown or Embarcadero or Fisherman's Wharf, just anywhere by the water is where you're going to want to get seafood. We have like clam chowder in a bread bowl is the classic that you can get anywhere downtown. And you can also get like fresh seafood where they literally like bring the fish off the fishing boat into the restaurant while you're sitting there eating. So that's really fun. Bakeries are also really popular in San Francisco. Arsicult Bakery, I will shout them out. They do have the best croissants in the city. They're like widely known to have the best croissants. And then there's a new bakery called Butter and Crumble that has just like popped off in the past year. It always has a line that's like multiple blocks long. I haven't tried it yet, but I heard that it is extremely worth it. So if you can make it to Butter and Crumble, I hear it's great. And then the thing that you like have to drink if you're in San Francisco is Irish coffee at the Buena Vista Cafe, which is down by North Beach. People say that Irish coffee was invented in America at the Buena Vista Cafe in San Francisco. So definitely get an Irish coffee.
Absolutely. And I actually have an article on the best coffee shops in San Francisco if you guys want to get into that. Like we said, there's just not enough time to go over all of these places in this podcast, but you can definitely check out the articles after the episode. Where is the best place to go out for nightlife in San Francisco?
Yeah, so if you want to go to a club, go to downtown or Soma. Those are where the clubs are. But then in terms of like rooftop bars, fancy bars, those will mostly be downtown. And then for like neighborhood bars and just fun DJ bars with dance vibes, the Mission District has really good nightlife and North Beach has really good nightlife. And then the Marina is the best place for like early 20s, I would say. There's a lot of bars that are a really close walk, so it kind of is the only place in San Francisco that you can like do a real bar crawl is in the Marina. But yeah, Marina, Mission District, North Beach, super popular for going out.
Fantastic. Yeah, lots of places to try. So definitely make sure you save room in your budget for going out to the bars, getting some really good food, and drinking some really good coffee when you visit San Francisco. Do you have any other tips that people should know before visiting San Francisco?
Yes, these are like my top 5 tips for visiting San Francisco. 1, don't call it San Fran and don't call it Frisco. It is San Francisco, SF, or the city. That's the only thing that people call it. You will immediately out yourself as a tourist if you call it San Fran. It's fine. You'll just get some stares. Number 2, always bring a light jacket wherever you go, no matter what the weather is, because it gets foggy. Number 3, SF weather. This is where SF can be a little bit different compared to a lot of places in California. So San Francisco, it's not rainy like the Pacific Northwest. It's not sunny like SoCal. It's kind of just always temperate. Like it's always around 60 degrees, and it gets foggy in the mornings and foggy in the evenings. So the middle of the day will be nice, but if you're going out in the evening, you need to take a jacket because the fog will come in and it'll immediately drop like 10 degrees.
What's its name?
The fog's name is Carl.
Carl with a K, and he has a Twitter account.
Yes, it's a Twitter account. And so if you go to like all of the souvenir shops, you can usually get like a magnet that says Carl the Fog or something because yeah, the fog is so prevalent that we named it. My number 4 tip, if you're walking to get around, wear comfortable shoes because the hills can be really steep. So a lot of people in San Francisco don't really wear like heels or fancy clothes unless it's a fancy occasion. Pretty much everyone here wears like street style clothes or athleisure just because, yeah, the hills can be really rough to walk around. So wear comfortable shoes. But number 5, I would say get to know the history of the city while you're here. Like a lot of people like to talk about how much San Francisco has changed with the rise of tech culture. But San Francisco has always been changing. It has changed ever since it was founded. And there is so much rich, rich, rich history if you just know where to look. So get to know the city that you're in while you're visiting.
5 great tips. Thank you for that, Laura. Is there any specific etiquette that people should know before visiting?
I would say people here are pretty polite. We walk slow, we tip generously, we try to be kind. So don't come to San Francisco and then try to talk to us about how bad it's gotten because it's only going to make you look like you don't know the city at all. You're not really going to earn anyone's respect by like trying to be controversial and talk about how there's like homelessness and poop on the street. Like we know there's poop on the street. Just grow up. It's a city. Deal with it. It's fine.
Walk around.
Walk around. Like just be nice. That's the number one thing is be nice. Don't try to be like, oh, do you guys really like living in San Francisco? Yes, clearly. It's one of the most popular places to move in the United States.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many great things about it. And again, people just kind of blow up the bad. Okay. So to wrap up the whole episode, what is the number one reason somebody should visit San Francisco?
San Francisco is the most naturally beautiful city in the United States. It has so many different microcosms of neighborhoods with places to explore. There's a ton of free and fun things to do. It's a great place to be outdoors, to be active, and it's close to some of the best day trips in the United States. So you can stay in San Francisco, and then it's the perfect jumping off point for visiting so much of the California coast, the mountains, wine country. It's fantastic. And people here are really nice, and we really want people to visit. We love tourists. So definitely come to San Francisco. It is a fantastic place to live and visit.
Well, that's all for the episode today. Laura, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your expertise about your hometown. I loved getting to know more about San Francisco. There's so much that you discussed and so much that you've written about, which again, all of Laura's relevant articles are going to be linked in the show notes. So make sure you check out everything that she's written about San Francisco after the episode. If you like the episode, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you never miss a beat. We post new episodes on Thursdays, so we're always going to keep you covered on new destinations all around the world. Laura, thank you again for joining us today. I hope you had a great time on the show.
I did. It was fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Of course, and thank you listeners for joining us today. We'll see you next time on the Travel Lemming Podcast.